everybody, and welcome to Azure Flash News episode 95.
95.
95.
That's
Rick,
right.
how's it going?
Well, I, like you, I am feeling a bit, it's been a long week. We've been on a fun journey this week. We've had a serverless hackathon that we worked on for a few consecutive days here as we continue to evolve our skills, and
Yes, we
I'm a little
did.
tired.
Yes, we most certainly did. And
How,
we are back now. Oh, and we are back now and ready to get going again. So
yes,
it
we
was
are.
really nice to see everybody one more time
Yep,
and, get back into the show and get back to what's going on. Um,
absolutely.
so, Rick, you want to do a quick review of what we got coming up?
You bet. So we've got some good topics today, specifically around Docker Desktop and some new capabilities. An official announcement of something that we talked about a little bit last week. Um, an ability to do some cost visibility across clouds, which is pretty slick. Well, let's see what else. Oh, some cool database stuff. This is more of an overview and kind of some validation for a non-Azure SQL database managed database service, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we're going to be talking a little bit about the journey that Mr. Burns is on as he sets us up for the future. And last but not least, another cost component that is we're going to talk about specifically around Azure.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
absolutely. So let's jump right in.
Yeah, that's right. Go ahead and get going
All
here.
right. So first announcement: Azure Container Instances, affectionately referred to as ACI, now has Docker integration is now in the Docker Desktop stable release, which is great news, right? So if you were interested in working with ACI specifically, but you wanted to use Docker Desktop, you didn't necessarily want to do the full deployment to Azure and all this other stuff, right? Basically, what you had to do was you had to use a preview release, or we'll call it it's not a beta, right? I mean, it's a
Yeah,
different. It's just this is considered stable. It's passed the test it has to pass. So,
that's right.
so effectively now it's we'll call it enterprise ready. How's that?
That's right. That's right. That's a good way to put it. And it's really great to see the continued innovation around containers and Docker. And
Cloud
well, actually,
native.
I tell you what. You know what? I was going to do one more quick thing.
Yeah.
If you don't know what container instance is, we
Yep.
always kind of go back. Usually, container instance is basically an Azure platform service for containers.
Good call.
Yeah. So
Yep.
it's like if you just want to run a container and that's it, no Kubernetes, no nothing, you just want to
Yep.
run it,
Yep.
this is how you can run it. And now there's going to be even better integration with Docker and Docker Desktop for Azure Container Instance.
And let's take it one step further and say and Visual Studio Code, right? So
That's right.
if you scroll there, right there, boom, what you're seeing is the Docker extension in Visual Studio Code, which basically essentially allows you to plug into VS Code. And then now what you can do is you can actually click an image from an image container registry, and you can do some different things here. But the cool thing about this is you don't have to leave your IDE. You can actually start to develop things and essentially deploy them with a target of ACI, but you're going to emulate the container orchestrator, or I should say the container runtime, if you will, in this case Docker, locally.
Yeah,
How cool
that's
is
right.
that? So you now
Because,
have your own little private cloud.
that's right. And it's all on your local machine using
Yep.
Docker
Yep.
Desktop. So it's really important if you're going to be doing, Docker and container
Container. Yep.
development, you need to
Yep.
be able to work locally. And
Absolutely.
so
And you could
we
do
want
this
to,
before. Don't get me wrong. Docker
yeah,
Desktop, it's not like this is a brand new thing. What's new, though, is the fact that you can actually leverage ACI. So if you don't want to do a full orchestration, if you don't need a full Kubernetes type of deployment, if you don't want to go do kubectl and all this other stuff, basically you can build a container, right? Docker build, Docker run, boom. You're running a container locally or running a
yeah,
container in the cloud in theory, right?
yeah,
So
that's right.
yeah, so this is just making it one step easier for you to build these containers, to test them, debug them, get them ready for prime time, and then go through your CI/CD pipeline.
Yeah. So if you're a developer and you're doing Docker and you're doing Visual Studio Code, you've got something to go look at.
That's
You got to
right.
check this out.
And notice we didn't mention a language there. We just said Docker,
No,
we said VS Code, and we said Azure Container Instances. We did not say, oh, you have to use .NET, you have to use Windows. You
no,
don't. Just so everybody's
no.
clear, right? I mean, that's the beauty of this is we meet you where you are.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome.
That's right.
Yeah, cool
That's right.
announcement. So if
So
you're
check this out when you get a chance, and
definitely,
I think you guys will like it.
yes.
Okay, Now we have another thing, and we talked about this last week, I
Yes, we
recall.
did.
All
Yes.
right.
So
So
effectively, we talked about a pending announcement, if you will. And when I say a pending announcement, I definitely don't mean GA, right?
yeah,
Um, it was a pending announcement about what we're looking at as we'll say it was a, what do we call it? Not exploratory, but what do we experimental?
yeah,
We
it's early.
Yep. So essentially, Project Bicep has been started was started a while ago. And the whole point of it is to create a domain-specific language, a DSL, around Azure resource management templates or ARM templates, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anybody who's dealt with an ARM template knows it's JSON, right?
Mm-hmm.
It looks familiar to developers, but at the same time, it's not super intuitive, right? Uh, Unless you have IntelliSense and unless you have some of these other things going for you, the ARM template in and of itself isn't necessarily going to be super clear. And also, it's a little bit of a challenge to read it. So, for example, we've kind of taken it and extended JSON a little bit further, maybe than we should have, by adding
Yeah.
things like constructs like loops
Yeah.
and for loops, that type. And obviously, it's not a for loop, but those things just don't quite fit well in JSON. JSON it's a JavaScript
It's an
object
object.
notation,
Yeah,
right?
it's object serialization.
Exactly. It's not a runtime. It's not a language. It's basically just a it's an object, right? So
Yeah.
so the cool thing about a DSL, right, is because it's now a domain specific language. So when you say for, you want to do a for loop or you want to do something, it looks more, I'll say natural. Is that a good word
Yeah.
to use?
Yeah, and I brought up an example here. I went kind of browsing
Oh,
through. So if you're
awesome.
watching on YouTube, you can see this. Here is an ARM template, and it's a
Yep.
website. So if you can see here on line 35, this is a website.
Yep.
So this looks familiar for those of you who've seen ARM templates. If you haven't seen ARM templates, this may look a little new, but this is what ARM templates look like. This is a definition of Azure infrastructure as code. But let's go here. You'll notice here I went kind of into one of these examples, and we can actually go into the main.bicep here, and this is what the bicep looks like.
Not like this. Right?
Well,
Not to be
that's the
confused
play
with
on
that.
ARM. Everybody get it? ARM
Oh,
templates,
yeah, I love it.
bicep.
I know, dude.
Okay, we're
Good
gonna
job.
flex a little bit.
Boom,
It's
boom.
it's yeah, it's maybe a little bit lame, but we'll go with it. Um, but you can see here we have parameters
Yep.
and we have variables, and you'll notice here that we have a website, and you can specify the API version right here as you specify the website, and you can give it a name, and so you can do all kinds of really awesome stuff. And when you do this, when you give it a name called site, you can
Yep.
actually reference it later in
Ah.
other things. So
I'm
so
not
like
gonna lie,
for
it does
instance,
make me feel good. And what's interesting about this is it really reminds me of one of my favorite cloud abstraction management providers, and that's Terraform, right?
Terraform, yeah,
It
right.
really reminds me of Terraform.
Yeah, and so you can see here that this website needs to land on an app service plan,
Yep.
and inside of the ARM template, it's called a server farm. That's what we call it, which in some ways is a better name,
Yep.
if you get me, if you be honest. But
I
but
agree.
to give this website a server farm ID, you actually call it farm.id because you told this thing farm. Now you could have called this foo and said foo.id, but you get to reference other objects by
Oh,
name that you give it. It's a beautiful thing.
I'm not
And
gonna
so
lie. I
that
mean, it gives me warm fuzzies.
yeah, and this actually compiles out to an ARM template, and then you can deploy that ARM template. So
And that's what's
pretty,
important to know, right? I think it's really important to know that when you do the main bicep or whatever work, yeah, you do the bicep, and basically, what
yeah,
happens is it interprets the DSL or compiles the DSL down to a JSON ARM
ARM
compliant
template.
template. Yep,
Yeah, that's right. And so if you have this ARM, if you have this bicep code,
yep,
it should compile to this
exactly.
template right here. So
Yep.
that's how it works. And then I think at some point they're talking about having bicep be able to deploy at the same step. So you just say bicep deploy, and it'll not only create the ARM template but also deploy it. So one step. But for now, when you run your bicep on your bicep file, you get an ARM template out.
Super, super cool.
Yeah,
So,
pretty cool.
closing thoughts here, though. I think the thing people have to remember is this is just it's alpha, right?
Yeah,
And I it is I still look at it like it is experimental. Okay.
yeah, for
This is
sure.
not production ready. This is not enterprise ready by any stretch of the imagination. This is the
Yep.
beginning of a journey, just like when we started ARM templates to replace ASM, right?
Mm-hmm.
That didn't happen overnight. And this is not going to happen overnight. What I encourage you to do is watch it evolve, to follow it, to provide suggestions, provide feedback, potentially even contribute to the open source community, because that's where we all win, right? So when this essentially becomes it hits that spot in its journey where it goes from preview to general availability, right? You're going to be skilled up, you're going to be an expert, and you are going to be the literally go-to person for
Yep.
all things bicep and arm
Yeah.
deployments because you followed it on that journey and may have even contributed to the open source project at some point.
Yeah, they're absolutely open to pull requests. And if you have any issues, go to issues on GitHub. We really are looking for that. And they have made a big deal out of this is not for production because we will break you.
Yes, we will.
Uh, we will break you. Because they're going to have breaking changes coming forward. So,
Absolutely.
anyway, take a
Yep.
look, get involved, make some suggestions, open some issues, and help us out with this because we can
Yes,
certainly use the feedback.
definitely. Feedback is teamwork makes the dream work, right?
That's right.
Awesome.
That's that's how the cliche goes.
All right. So, Mark, do you work with customers that have a, what we call it, a multi-cloud provider strategy by any chance?
Pretty much everybody has at least something going on in different places, so we want to make it easy for customers to do that.
So is this where you, if we were in a court of law, they'd say, Your Honor, I object. The attorney is leading the witness. Is that what they
Yeah,
would
right.
say?
Or you call it a softball question.
There you go. I just lobbed you a softball. So
Yeah, right.
I think everybody in the world has a multi-vendor strategy, except for the vendors themselves, right?
Yeah,
Having said that, as we've talked about this before, Microsoft is in a unique spot because we know the enterprise and because we've been involved with the enterprise for so long, specifically IT departments, we've got a good handle on providing a single pane of glass, right? So across different types of Windows and Linux, across different Oracle and SQL Server, for we had started that journey a long time ago, right? So
yep.
having said that, now we're in the cloud. Fast forward, right? We still have tools like Security Center, cross cloud, right?
Mm-hmm.
Azure Monitor. A lot of things have been cross cloud except for cost management.
Yep.
Well, guess what? There is now a connector for AWS that enables you in Azure Cost Management, plus the billing, right? Azure Cost Management and billing is kind of the capability, is now
Yep.
generally available, right?
Yep.
So there's a great tutorial. There's a connector. How do you set it up? It's secure. It's reliable. It basically goes through and does that. We'll call it the reciprocating handshake
Yep.
to set that reliably, and then basically you start to see your AWS linked accounts within your cost and billing
Yeah. That's
data that you're
that's
consuming.
that's exactly right. So cost management is a core tenant of cloud capabilities, just as important as automation or understanding the
Absolutely.
platform. It's a critical part of deploying a well-managed cloud. So no matter what cloud you're using, you need to be doing this.
Yep.
However, you don't need more than Azure to do it, even across other clouds.
Exactly. So that's the cool part. And you still get the same rich capabilities, right? Setting budgets and alerts, estimating future spend using forecasting. All those things are still available to you, but targeting your AWS environment. So,
Yeah, that's right.
and we're not necessarily, we don't have a thing that sets you up and says, oh, by the way, if you were using Azure, this would be 10% cheaper. That's not what it's about. It's about enabling you the ability to have visibility into your system without trying to, you know, steer you in a different direction. That's not what
Right.
this is for, which I,
Right.
which I
Right.
appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah. That is excellent, excellent stuff. So if you've got a multi-cloud environment, check out Azure Cost Management. If you've only got Azure, you need to check out Azure Cost
Cost
Management. It can
management.
really help you manage your costs in
Uh,
Azure. You can figure out what's going on, figure out what's costing you money, and because you got to manage to it. So
exactly. Yep. So please know your costs,
that's right.
because
Please
somebody
do.
does, and it's the person
That's
that
right.
typically you have to write a check out to.
That's right. Somebody
Awesome.
cares.
Awesome.
All
So
right.
once upon a time, I thought the world in the DBMS, you're right, database management systems, revolved around SQL Server. And apparently I was wrong, Mark.
What?
Yeah, I know, right? So evidently there's this thing called PostgreSQL, and there's some other, what's going on?
It turns out that it's beneficial for everybody if we support all kinds of database platforms.
Huh.
Haha. I mean, we knew that. We knew that. But we're continuing to bring Postgres to you in Azure in a managed fashion, right?
Absolutely. Now, again, though, here's the distinction that I think that you were alluding to is that we support them. Okay. The point of this isn't let's go take PostgreSQL and put a Microsoft spin on it. Okay. The point of this is, oh, this is 100% open source. So by the way, this is built on the community edition PostgreSQL, right? With open
Mm-hmm.
extension support. So you can leverage PostgreSQL features, including like JSONB, geospatial support, indexing, etc., right? This is built on it's not forked, it's not, privatized, and we didn't do that, okay?
No.
And we are absolutely committed, just like our other open source projects, to this is a culture. We're collaborating, we're working together, so it's really exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's really great. It's called Azure Database for PostgreSQL.
Yep.
And actually, did you know that actually SQL Server and Postgres share a heritage?
I believe they originated out of
I'm trying to remember the name of it, but Postgres, Post GRE is
yep.
referencing that it's Post. The I'm trying to remember the name of the database server, but that's also where SQL Server came from.
Yes,
And so this is there's actually even a shared heritage here between PostgreSQL and SQL Server. So we're
that's
bringing the
funny.
family back together,
That's
Rick.
right.
We're
Apparently
bringing the
we are.
family back together.
So the
Um,
nice thing about this, though, again, you get the fully managed. It's a completely managed
Absolutely.
database as a service, right? We've got the enterprise grade security and capabilities that you would expect, like our advanced threat protection, right? We do
Mm-hmm.
make performance recommendations. We do support hyperscale, so we have a high performance, but it's
Mm-hmm.
all based on the Citrus open source Postgres extension, right? So
Yep.
that takes your data and your queries and spans them out for massive parallelism, which we've all kind of come to just assume is there, right, for
Yep.
high performance solutions.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. So really
Yeah.
exciting. I
Yeah,
think
that's big stuff. And not only do we have Postgres, but I'll just mention on the other side, we also have MySQL as well. So it's
exactly.
really the trio of SQL Server, MySQL, and Postgres. We've got them all. It's available to you. Come and get it.
That's right.
Come and check it
Absolutely.
out.
Yeah, super cool.
Um, let's see. Is there anything else you want to say about that?
Nope. Nope. That's plenty to get me excited.
All right, Rick, you're a very excitable person. So,
Yeah, I can be. I can be.
uh, okay. Well, how about a little Kubernetes?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So,
Um, I don't think that this is an announcement. I think this is
no,
more just like how to get the most out of Azure, how to get the most out of Kubernetes on Azure by, you know, the man himself,
exactly. Brendan Burns,
Brendan Burns.
right?
Yeah, that's right.
I think we've talked about this in the past. Brendan has been like Mark Rusinovich have kind of been taking on us on these blog series, these journeys, if you will, right? Mark Rusinovich has been speaking specifically around building resiliency and how we have evolved that and how we continue to evolve that in the Azure platform. Brendan's take kind of is more on the, we'll call it cloud native computing, right? So we are part of the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, of
Mm-hmm.
which containers are a prime example of the CNCF, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And they map very well to the cloud native concepts. So
Yep.
this particular post is really just about building resilient applications, right? Performance, operational efficiencies, securing things by design, right? Don't
Yeah.
Security should never be an afterthought. So these are all the things that he talks about, and not only that, but I like the way Brendan does some of these things where he talks about why we've done, like, for example, why does Azure CNI even exist? Our
Right.
container networking interface, right?
Container networking, the CNI, the Azure
Exactly. Or
CNI. Yeah.
or CSI, our container storage interface, right? Why do those things even exist? Well, there's some thought behind it. There's some strategic, decisions that had to be made, and here's why we decided to give you options, right? So
Yeah.
you don't have to just rely on KubeNet if you want to do something different with networking. You can
Yep.
use. So anyway, there's a guide to Kubernetes best practices link through
Yeah.
here.
Which is
Adoption
practical,
guides.
right?
Yeah,
Would really be
absolutely.
helpful.
Absolutely. So some good stuff here. I mean, Brendan Burns does a great job. I think he's very insightful. I think he's a very practical and pragmatic kind of person. So it's fun to
Yep.
watch his thoughts and see how he kind of articulates the journey of Kubernetes.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. So if you're a Kubernetes aficionado, if you're not a Kubernetes aficionado,
doesn't matter.
come and check this one out. Go take a look at it because Kubernetes is a really special platform that has unique capabilities that, might fit your need.
Yep,
And so check it out.
absolutely.
And and for that matter, I'm just going to make one more mention. There's a talk about Kubernetes, but of course the connection with Azure is that Azure has AKS,
Yes, of
which is
course.
the Azure Kubernetes service, which
Right.
allows you to run AKS directly on Azure
Mhm.
with a minimal amount of operations. So check it out.
Yep, exactly. Love it, dude. All right.
Okay.
Oh, so we
It's
talked
been a
about
long week.
the billing. Yeah, we talked about cost management, right? So financial reporting and cost allocation. That's not always easy in the cloud, is it? When you've
No.
got things like shared resources.
Yep, that's right. That's right. So, if you need to be able to take some of those shared resources and spread them out across different teams
Hmm?
or different subscriptions or different resource groups or different tags, you can do that now. So,
Which is really exciting. I mean,
yeah.
again, so you've got shared costs, right? You can specify basically. So when you talk about streamlining cost allocation with for financial reporting, right? It's an easy process. You've got your shared costs that you have to identify. For example, ExpressRoute is probably likely a shared cost, or anything that you have hosted in a shared infrastructure.
Yep.
Um, and to your point, you've tagged. You might be using tagging. You might be doing certain things to identify them as shared costs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then you get to specify, right? So now that you have identified the shared costs, you get to specify basically where to move them or how to. So this shared cost basically gets associated with this or this portion. I'm sorry, this data represents this portion of the shared cost, right? Because there might be
Mm-hmm.
a certain portion of it that's, we'll call it the cost of doing business,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And
Yeah,
then
and I was just gonna say you
yeah,
can. I mean, you can kind of spread them evenly. You can use proportional. You can, and then you can spread them proportionally to other kinds of costs. So there's a
right.
lot of flexibility how you actually spread this stuff out.
And that's interesting too, right? So you can, to your point, you can split them, right? So percentage wise, you can just, if you've got 10, just say distribute it evenly. Unfortunately, then if you're onboarding somebody for the first time, they pay the pioneer tax, right? Where we say
That's
you pay
right.
100% of it. Um, but yeah, if you've got 10, you can spread it across 10. You can say proportional to total cost. So for example, 25% of the total cost goes here, or you can split it up even by type, right? Compute, network, and storage.
Yeah, that's right. And so if you have these four resource groups, and each of these four have this one has 100 gigs, and this one has 10 gigs, and 10 and 10, and then you can say spread that out by storage cost,
Yep.
which means that according to the proportion of 100 gigs, 10, 10, and 10, it'll actually spread it out, which of course would be more like 3/4 and then 10%, 10%, 10%, something like that in
Yeah.
this case. But it really gives you a lot of flexibility to use proxies of either the storage computer network cost as the percentage spread.
You just reminded me. I can't remember. It was a pizza commercial. Regular price, $4, $4, $4,
Oh,
$4.
that's Pizza Hut. That's Pizza Hut. Yeah, it's like how much is it to
What if I
get
want
a
to?
pepper
Yeah,
to get
regular
a
price,
pepperoni
$4, $4,
pizza,
$4.
a pepperoni pizza, a sausage pizza, or your phone number? $4, $4, not for $1,000,000.
See,
Do you
you
remember that?
remember?
Okay, anyway.
No, you remember it
Yeah.
even better than I do.
Well, I worked at Pizza Hut at the time, so
Oh, there you
yeah,
go.
I delivered pizza in high school.
So it's now
Anyway,
you know if you got a pizza at one point in your career. Well, where was this? Were you in
this was
Texas
down in
at this
Texas.
point?
This was
Okay,
down in Texas. That's
okay,
right. I delivered pizza. It was fun. It was a good job. I liked it. I
awesome,
highly recommend it.
awesome.
Anyway, so spread out your costs.
Yes.
Find ways to spread this out
Yep.
because a lot of companies don't have budgets for the IT department, and they just
Right.
want the IT department to spread it all out to the applications, which you can do that now much more easily.
Exactly. You got it.
Okay.
Cool.
Well, that's kind of it for the day. We kind of got through those topics nice and quick.
Yes, we did.
Trying to get through stuff, get you guys back to work,
And back to
maybe,
your
or
day.
or maybe you wanted to just stay
I
and listen
just
to the podcast. I don't know.
I know. I was kind of thinking about that too. I'm like, well, in that case, maybe you might want to think about just go ahead and start digging into some of these topics.
Yeah,
You're just
that's
kind of
right.
doing
That's right.
everything. It's Friday, at least for us.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
if you're seeing us real time on YouTube, it's Friday. It's 1:45 Central Standard Time,
That's right.
and I think we have had a long week.
Yes, we have. It's been a long week. I'm ready to shut the door on this one. Have a weekend,
Yep,
and I hope all of you out there have a good weekend.
absolutely.
Take it easy,
Yep,
and relax a little bit. One more thing I want to ask is, if you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching this after the fact, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Our subscribers been going up really well, and so I think we're kind of
please
growing
do.
there. We want
Yep,
people to know that we're going live or know that we have a new video. So
yep.
check it out when you get a chance. Subscribe and like the video, please.
Absolutely. And Mark, just a final thought. If people need to get a hold of you or would like to, I should say not need, but even if they want to get a hold of you, what's the best way
Yeah,
to
if
do
you just
that?
want to chit chat, you can catch me on email, mgarner@microsoft.com, or on Twitter, m@mgarner.
Okay.
And Rick, what about you?
Well, if you just want to chit chat, you can go ahead and refer to those M. Garner emails and Twitter handles. No,
Right.
just kidding. Just kidding. No, regardless, it's Rick, WEY, at Microsoft.com. Or, of course, you can reach us at our Twitter handle at Azure Flash News.
Yeah.
And we definitely monitor those, and we appreciate feedback, support, and your commitment to going on this cloud journey with us.
Yeah, great. So
Awesome.
thanks, everybody. We really appreciate your time. We know your time is precious. So thanks
Yes, we
for being
do.
here.
Yes, thank you very much. So we look forward to having another conversation with you soon down the road. And until then, keep your fingers on the sanitized keyboard and your head in the clouds.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.